Howdy, this is Devin Rose, Lionheart Catholic. Wanted to talk about this new Vatican document on investing morally as a Catholic called Mensuram Bonum, abbreviated MB, Faith-Based Measures for Catholic Investors, a starting point and call to action. So it is a starting point. After reading it, I can agree with that. The calls to action and the ideas in it are not all good, so that's the downside. But this has been an interest area of mine ever since I became uncomfortable with just investing in index funds, S&P 500 index fund, for example, or, a NASDAQ index, because the companies included in those indices, many of them are antithetical to Catholic teaching. So they're, doing immoral things. They're in areas that we as Catholics don't want to invest in. And we'll get to one of the tables in Mensuram Bonum here that includes some tables that are good, some items about areas you should avoid as a Catholic. The church overall has given very little guidance on how we should invest as Catholics. And therefore, guess what? Most Catholics who do invest something are just doing whatever they're told, which the general wisdom is invest in low, cost index funds. And that's what I did for a long time. That's actually not very helpful. So unfortunately, while this document has some true points, it also espouses, as we'll see, globalist propaganda points throughout, which are antithetical to Catholic truth. And the TLDR then is it's not reliable as a whole, and Catholics must be wary of it. Pick out the good, discard the bad. And that makes the document a failure in my book, because the whole point of this document is clear, true guidance, how to invest morally as a Catholic. So, for example, Mensuram Bonum says, important frameworks have already been launched, such as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Inclusive and ecologically sound practices are being fashioned by the UN and elsewhere. I mean, anytime someone who knows anything sees the UN and Sustainable Development Goals, the alarm bells should be going off. This is a big warning sign. And you just look at a few of these UN development goals. One is on health and well-being and talks about how everyone needs to get the COVID jab. Of course, that's grievously injured and killed millions of people at this point. Gender equality is, one of their code words that include sterilization, contraception, abortion. All are against Catholic teaching. The energy goals supposed to help more people in the world get electricity, but because they follow the falsehoods of focus on renewable energy at the expense of oil, gas, it means that many of those people are never going to get electricity. They have a goal, the UN does, of reducing inequality. It's a code word for sexual perversion. And they have a climate change goal, of course. And this goal, unfortunately, shows up a lot in the Mensuram Bonum document. It's actually a key part of it. And as it says then, it says this early on too, in the document, today's most pressing example, many communities around the world are suffering the calamitous effects of climate change. This is drivel in its pure agenda, and yet that's trotted out as like one of the most important things in the entire way of investing. And we'll see more on this now when it brings up ESG for the first time, and I'll explain what ESG is in a sec. If similar to the innovations in the financial industry, the numerous responsibilities products such as ESG, the key from MB is that ethics resonant with Catholic faith are now crucial to the objective function of investing. Now that's a lot of gobbledygook, but basically it's saying, hey, ESG is one of these frameworks that's being responsible in how you should evaluate a company and whether you can morally invest in it. This is a total globalist buzzword. It stands for environmental social governance. And basically we want to blacklist companies if we don't like them. So anything that's oil and gas, we want to blacklist them, they're bad. And we want to demonize those industries, ultimately so we can enrich other people in industries that we like. And it will help us as a globalist control other people. So it goes on about this to say that there's some ESG funds and ones that try to follow CST, which is Catholic social teaching. There's not that many of them. And it's true, there's actually very few funds that are trying to follow Catholic social teaching. Examples would be Aquinas funds, Ave Maria mutual funds. I've invested in both of those sets of funds before, but unfortunately, various board members and decision makers in those funds, when you look at them, not all of them have their Catholic heads screwed on well in following the tradition of the church. And so they have questionable investments there that I personally reject in my Lionheart Catholic portfolio, which is just my own portfolio of stocks that I've chosen that follow Catholic social teaching. So you can't even just outsource to one of those guys your investing as a Catholic, because unfortunately they're not following the tradition of the church on all these matters, in my opinion. So that it says ESG enhanced with CST. So you're saying something that's an agenda and propaganda and false, and we're going to enhance it. Investors may well benefit from the evolving ESG investing platforms. Definitely they're evolving, not necessarily a good way. On their commitments and records on environmental, social, and governance criteria. Many of the underlying factors for ESG resonate with the aims underlying CST, and there's a new synergy. I groan at this because, for example, FTX, the corrupt crypto exchange that Sam Bankman-Fried, ran, had a pretty good ESG score, a higher ESG score than Exxon Mobil. Right. And yet, of course, they were corrupt. They're stealing funds. They're laundering money, all kinds of stuff. And yet that is the type of thing that would show up well from an ESG standpoint. In this document, you would then think, oh, well, if I'm following this, that could be a good company to, invest in or take part in. When, of course, it wasn't. It was corrupt to the core. Finally, something good. The document says it's crucial to note that ESG is not a synonym for CST. Yes, that's very important to realize. These are not the same thing. Matter of fact, they're very different. They're very different. And Catholic social teaching, understood correctly, of course, is true. ESG is not true, is a propaganda item that people can make whatever they want out of it, just like they can make climate change whatever they want, right? Anything's climate change, and nothing is, right? It's unfalsifiable. It does then say ESG remains a work in progress, and we have to watch out for greenwashing, examples of corporations lobbying regulators against the very social responsibility commitments they're making to stakeholders and their public. Yes, it's a lot of hypocrisy, which is why a lot of the US states who've been following BlackRock and their ESG, push are divesting of that, saying, we're not going to follow that because it's actually bad. So people are realizing that slowly. Now, there are some good tables here, and they probably use the word exclusion. Let's see here. Yeah, so they have some tables that are decent. Let me see if they have any up here. Maybe they start right down here. It's a long document, and a lot of it's, kind of gobbledygook, unfortunately. It might sound good. Here's one of the tables. So this is saying, hey, you better watch out for these, 24 categories of concern or prohibition. Well, you have things like abortion. Yes, like you don't want to invest in a company that makes the abortion pill, right? Or one that outright does that. But then right next to it, you have armaments. Well, there is such thing as just war. There is a legitimate use for armaments, but there's not for abortion. Similarly, nuclear weapons here. Well, uranium's used in nuclear weapons, but it's also used in nuclear power plants, right? They don't clarify that. So someone could read this and think, oh, I can't invest in uranium or a uranium miner. Quite the opposite. The world needs more nuclear energy, something that I think that the world is waking up to, and lots of people in the nuclear power industry think as well, because with this demonization of oil and gas and this focus on wind, solar, renewables, which are never going to replace oil and gas, you've got to have something in the gap one way or the other, and nuclear is the best thing for that. So then there's other good things. Pornography, again, always wrong. Corruption, sure, but then look what we have. Threats to climate change. Here we go, right? So, they've got the Trojan horse here. And when you put that in, you open yourself up to all the falsehoods of the Marxist globalist agenda that's antithetical to the Catholic faith. So you've just basically ruined your document by putting this kind of stuff in there. Unfortunately, right? It's right alongside abortion and other non-negotiables. Really, really bad to see that. Then there's another document. Again, you've got things that, how to say this, totalitarian regimes, sure, that's bad. Embryo stem cell research, always wrong. But then you have something like capital punishment, right? Which is not always wrong. So animal abuse, experimentation. Well, sometimes experimenting with animals is actually a moral thing to do. And so putting this next to, all these different other things, it just muddies the waters. So because some of the items in these tables are wrong or false, it pollutes the credibility and usefulness of the entire guide. It calls into question the competency and understanding of the faith, the people who put it together. Rightly so. And I don't know who put this together. It was, out of the, I don't I don't want to say the social justice department. What was it? It was the Academy of Social Sciences. Okay, Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. Right. So what we do need something like this, but unfortunately this isn't it. Now I've got a blog post here, Catholic Stock Portfolio for Moral Investing. Goal, invest in companies that don't violate Catholic teaching. This is my own take. There's a few ways to do it. I talk about Catholic mutual funds like Ave Maria and Aquinas. Outsource it to a financial advisor who probably doesn't have the same understanding of the Catholic faith as you do. Just give up and do index funds, or take ownership of your investing decisions, which is what I do, and choose how to invest. And I actually have then my own portfolio that I invest in, along with any additions or removals. If I found something out that this company is doing something evil, then I remove them. And you can see there's been several here. So not only can they be removed for financial reasons, I don't think they're a good investment, but also because I think they've done something that's evil. So mixed bag with this, unfortunately. I should point out too, so in my Lionheart Catholic membership, that's a private membership, you pay a monthly fee, that I actually have a course on investing that is just for educational purposes, as well as I go into detail on the portfolio and how I've constructed that. People ask in the membership, what's the criteria? So if you find that helpful, you can just go to lionheartcatholic.com. You actually get a discount if you buy one of my books. I have a book on becoming a saint, and then one on getting prepared. And if you follow this, there's a discount that you can get on the first month of the membership. And this book I ship in the US at cost of printing and shipping. It's only $7.95. It actually costs me more to print and ship because of inflation. I haven't raised the price, so I lose a little bit on each of these, but I really believe in the book. That's on becoming a saint, so that's a spiritual foundation. And then the other one's on getting prepared. So it's Lionheart Catholic too. How do you get prepared in these dark times? And so that has everything from investing, physical health, where to live, schooling options for your kids, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Thanks for sticking by. Devin Rose, Lionheart Catholic. God bless.